Hello everybody and welcome to A Sportsman's Life. Glad to have you join us here today. We're going to start the show off today with a little spot and stalk. I was sitting at camp, realized hogs had come into the feeder, and I had my bow sitting on the tailgate of my truck. I decided to grab the bow and put a little stalk on these porkers. When stalking up on hogs, it's always best to move very, very slowly and use trees and brush around you to cover up your movement. As you'll see here, I positioned myself behind trees and I had a makeshift brush blind put in right 20 yards or so from the feeder to allow me to do this perfect little stalk. So stick with me here. We'll see if we can't get on a hog and put some meat in the freezer. As you can see here, I am not in a hurry to make a shot. It's always best to let the animals feed. The longer they're there, the less skittish they are. Always wait for a broadside shot. Never hurry. Always take your time so you make the right shot. If they are feeding toward you, let them come. Take your time. Pick out a spot on the animal, not just an animal. And again, it's always best to take your time and focus on your shot. In this particular case, I am waiting for the right opportunity, and when that opportunity presents itself, I'm ready to go. After coming to full draw on this hog, he actually moved, and so I had to wait until he actually came back out to the position I needed him to be in to make the shot. So as you'll see here, I'm at full draw for several seconds and finally was able to make the shot, and it appears to be a good shot. So we're going to head back to camp, and we're going to put a track on this guy. Hopefully we'll have some pork for the freezer. Stay tuned. Okay, what's crazy is I just shot a hog probably 10 minutes ago, and there's hogs back in there. They are, I think this is a whole new group, a bunch of them. And let's zoom in on them here. I drilled the one, so I know he's hit. With any luck, we'll find him. No shortage of hogs here, folks, so just a heck of a lot of fun. As you'll see here, I've got this blind. I just kind of built a little spot and stalk blind right there that you can walk up behind, as you saw, and shot me a hog. So lots and lots of fun. I'm sitting here talking, and of course they have no interest in me back here. I'm probably about, I don't know, maybe 100, 125 yards away, something like that. But I dumped a little extra corn over there earlier as I was filling feeders, and they're not going to miss a golden nugget. These critters love the golden nugget. That's what makes them so fun to hunt. Alright, well, we're going to wrap up here. I've got a hog to look for yet. He's out there somewhere, so I saw that arrow go deep into his chest, so hopefully we'll find him. Well, here you go, folks. It's all about staying on the blood trail. This guy didn't go 70 yards. Did have a good blood trail follow for a period, and then it kind of dissipated a bit and then started back up again. So, again, he went 70 yards or so. Great little porker to put on our smoker. So we're going to get him back to camp, get the back straps and the hams off this guy, and we will be eating good victuals. So, folks, stay tuned. We've got a great show coming your way here on A Sportsman's Life.
Well, folks, here I am in a stand here, early bow season. And you know, to me, early bow season is as much about getting my archery skills honed again, which I've been practicing a lot. Not so much about killing a big buck, because usually in early bow season, I don't see a big buck. But I've been hunting probably 3 or 4 days total, and sitting in a stand, this little buck right here came out. You know, he's really not legal. I had to look really, really close to see if he was a spike on one side. I would not have taken him anyway. He's just a 1.5-year-old deer, and quite frankly, he's not packing the venison that I'm looking for. You know, he's just not that big a deer. But anyway, he's not legal. You had to look really close. That'd be an easy deer to mess up on. But if you look at both antlers, they're both forked. And in Texas, of course, you'd have, 13-inch inside spread or a spike on one side would have been legal. But while sitting there, this blind is close to an old whiskey still, an old moonshine still. And being an outdoor writer for over about 3.5 decades, I'm always looking for a newspaper column topic. I sat there looking at that old tank, the remnants of that steel, which is probably at least 100 years old, been sitting there in that area. And then the old oak, then there's a dead oak right beside it. Just wondering which one of those oaks gave those old boys shade back when they were working that steel. You can imagine the heat from the fire and all that kind of stuff. But we'll walk over. I want to give you a look at these trees. And also look at this old steel. It just things like that kind of sparks my interest, and it's not all about killing a deer. A hunt's not. And if you really think about it, I bet you find things like this on your hunts that you can relate to. Well, folks, this is Luke Clayton. I thought I would share something with you here. I've been out on a solo hunt for a couple of days, and I ran across this old tree, or what's left of this old tree. And as an old outdoor writer, my mind's always thinking about story ideas or something to share with folks. I want you to stick with me just a minute. I've got a little quick story to tell you. Now, when was this tree a seedling? This tree, this mighty oak right here, had been in the ground for a long, long time. Been growing a long time. So what humans saw this tree when it was a seedling? Now it makes you wonder, because right over here is an old tank. We'll get you a good look at it. We're going to walk over and look at it. It's the remnants of an old still where whiskey was made. This area's got a lot of springs in it, and I've been told the water is excellent. So maybe back in the 20s, the early 1900s, I don't know, somebody set this still up. We'll go take a look at it in just a little bit here, a little closer look. Did that somebody sit under the shade of this ancient, what's left of this ancient old tree? Probably not. This tree was probably on its way down back when that still was being worked. And right here, this oak is probably the one that shaded the guys that worked at the still. Let's go take a look at the still. Kind of interesting things that if you take the time, you'll never get the answers to a lot of these questions that I come up with when I never will get the answer, but it's sure fun thinking about it. Let's take a close-up look at the old still here. Now, you can write a book about what I don't know about a moonshine still, but you can tell this old tank has been in the ground a long, long time. It's rusted out. Here's a spigot with a cap on it here on this old still, and there's one down on this end. What was that for? I don't know, but it's sure fun to wonder about it. Here's a big flange right here on the still. Another outlet there, and if you look down at the end, there's an outlet there. Just fun things to think about. And sitting in a hunting blind, not too far from here, just wondering about the people that put the still here, and that old tree is what really made me think about it. Now we'll get on to the back to our show. Just some fodder for thought.
A few days ago, I was driving a back road not too far from where I grew up, joining country, actually driving by some country that used to belong to one of my great-great-granddads that today is owned by somebody else, of course, and was just kind of driving along the edge of their property on a public road, and kind of looked over the side to their property, and lo and behold, I see something that kind of looks kind of brown and white, and get a little bit of a closer look, and it is a whitetail deer. It is a piebald whitetail deer. Now that means simply it's very much colored like a paint or a pinto horse, if you will, where it's got natural color of brown and also white. Got my binoculars out, and guess what? Not only is it a piebald deer, it's a buck with some pretty nice antlers. Looks like he's probably about a 4 or 5 year old deer, and drag out the camera, and guess what? he comes walking kind of toward me a little bit, and I'm able to get some really good footage. Now, piebald deer are really kind of a rarity no matter where whitetail deer exist. In Texas particularly, you very seldom see piebald deer or albinos, and one of the reasons is because they have a tendency to stand out when they're fawns. They're much easier for predators to see, and as a result of that, if a fawn is born that's all white or maybe even partially white beyond the normal whitetail white coloration that they have, you know, with a throat patch and maybe a little bit around the eyes and then underneath the belly, those deer just are so obvious to coyotes and bobcats that they're preyed upon. So the sight of a piebald deer in Texas is really, really rare, and to get one into the older age classes such as the buck was that I was able to photograph is even rarer. So, you know, some states have rules and regulation that says you cannot shoot a piebald deer or a white-colored deer. In Texas, that is not the case. I don't think this deer has been harvested based upon the conversation I've had with the local landowners. This property is not really that far away from country that I hunt, so I don't think these animals or this particular buck has been taken. Will there be more in the future? You know, I think there's one of those chances that there could be, but it really just takes the right combination of genes, and maybe if this buck happens to breed a doe that's got a tendency that might be able to throw a piebald deer, then by all means there may be another one somewhere down the way. But in the meantime, just kind of enjoy this one and you know, do like I did, sit there and watch him and dream about him, and hopefully he got away, and hopefully he produces some offsprings like him, and hopefully I'll get to see this deer on my property next year.
Well, hello, my friends. It's your old buddy Luke Clayton, and welcome to our little cooking segment today. You know, a lot of us that hunt deer kind of stick with recipes that we've used for years and years. Chicken fried backstrap. Nothing wrong with that. Some of us make barbecue out of our venison. But have you ever thought about corning your venison? Now, do you like a Reuben sandwich? I guess that would be the kicker. Or do you like corned beef and cabbage? Well, if you do, you need to think about corning some venison. And that's what we're going to do today. I have all the ingredients ready. And trust me, this is not rocket science. It's really, really easy to do. You need a couple of, or as many as you want. I've got a couple of round roast here. 2 of them. They're 3 pounds apiece. I put a little stockinette on them to kind of keep them together through this process. You need some, this is from Butcher Packer Supply. I'll give you a close-up of it here in a minute. But basically this is mixes with 2.5 gallons of water. The official name is just corned beef seasoning mix from Butcher Packer Supply. It costs just a few bucks, but you can go online to butcher-packer.com or just Google Butcher Packer Supply. So you need this, and then you need the little packet of cure that comes with it. This constitutes a kit, and it'll cure a whole lot more meat than we've got. About we got about 6 pounds here of round roast that we're going to turn into corned venison. But basically, this is a little plastic vat that we're going to overnight. It takes only 24 hours with this meat in this solution to turn it into corned venison. Now, this is an injector needle. You don't have to have one this big or this fancy. This is one of the Morton needles, a really good one. But you basically mix the ingredients in this 2.5 gallons of water, folks. Mix it really, really well. Suck it up in this and pump it into this. You want to load these roasts up until they're fully loaded with the cure. Put them in the refrigerator in this for 24 hours, and then what I'm going to do, rather than, you know, slow cook these in water for 3 or 4 hours, I'm going to put them in my pressure cooker for about an hour and turn these into some of the most tasty corned venison pieces that you can imagine. And then you've got that, it's pre-cooked. If you want to smoke it a little bit, you can. You can put it in your smoking Tex electric smoker or whatever if you want smoked corned venison. But I just want the real corned venison, boiled, you know, that you make Reuben sandwiches out of. So let me get away from the camera and show you what all these ingredients look like. But do remember, you're going to need this Butcher Packer Supply, the corned beef mix, and it's, I don't know what it's less than $10. It doesn't cost much, but there's enough in this mix to do, oh gosh, probably 2 or 3 times this much meat. So let me give you a close-in look at this and you can see what we're dealing with. So folks, here's our little 3-pound top round roast. These are going to be so good. You're going to make some really good corned venison. Here's the little packets I was telling you about. Butcher Packer Supply, that's the seasoning there in this one. And then this one is the cure. Of course, here's the needle, a up close look at it. The injector needle. And we've got the vat over here. So what do you say I mix all these ingredients, mix the two, the cure and the seasoning, up in the water, and then we'll simply load these little roast, if you will, up with the cure and the seasoning, put them in the vat and let it set 24 hours, and then we'll come back and take a look at it. What do you say? Okay, folks, here we go. Here's our corned venison. Of course, it had spent 24 hours in the solution that I showed you, and about 1 hour and 45 minutes in the pressure cooker. This is really, really tender corned venison. So what do you say we take some of these little pieces here, put them on some rye bread with some Swiss cheese, Thousand Island dressing, and a little sauerkraut, and make us a tasty Reuben sandwich or 3. What do you say? And folks, here is the finished product. Let's take a look at this Reuben. I really do wish I could pass some of this through to you to sample, but you can make it just like this. It's really easy. Just follow these instructions, and remember, Butcher Packer Supply is where you can get the curing salt and the seasonings to turn this into one fine meal, or I should say many fine meals. So it's time for old Luke to dig in.
Y'all join us again next week right here on the Sportsman's Life.
And a special thanks to these fine sponsors: Air Force Air Guns, B&B Charcoal, Dallas Safari Club, Hornaday, Pyramid Air, Taurus Firearms, Sightmark, Smokin' Tex, Snaplock Hunting Blinds, TRHP Outdoors, and Striper Express.